Okay, I'm going to try to give you some information about the Gulf of Mexico oil spill. This rig was built, number one, without an acoustic switch. The acoustic switch is supposed to be just about fail-safe guard to make sure that something like this doesn't happen. The reason it didn't have the switch was because of deregulation from the Bush era. There was an agency, government agency called Minerals Management Services, and they allowed BP to build the rig without the acoustic switch. It turns out though that Minerals Management Services and BP were just about in bed together, the same way the FDA is with Monsanto. Not building the switch allowed BP to save about $500,000. Okay, on top of that, there were other devices in place that should have ensured that something like this didn't happen. It had a blowout preventer that had about 10 fail-safes on it somewhere on the ground. There's panic buttons, sensor alarms, and 3 at the wellhead site itself. From the Washington Post. In the Gulf of Mexico, what went wrong with the Deepwater Horizon oil drilling rig? Okay, in this article, Professor DeFaze of Princeton University is quoted saying, "Here we have the statistically unlikely case of both systems failing," meaning the acoustic switch and the blowout preventer. The blowout is one failure, the blowout preventer's malfunction is the second, and there may even be a third failure, he said, for example, if the steel casing was improperly attached to the blowout preventer. Statistically unlikely to have all those things happen at the same time. The acoustic switch, by the way, is mandatory everywhere in the world except in the USA. Okay, this is from the Washington Post again. It says, 4 employees of Halliburton were on Deepwater Horizon. They had overseen the main task of cementing the well just 20 hours before the blowout. And then in the final moments before the well blew, according to a petroleum engineer who wouldn't give his name, that the heavy drilling mud was removed and replaced with lighter seawater before they put the second cement plug in. After this happened, Janet Napolitano declared it a national emergency, which Wayne Madsen suggests, and I think he's probably right, that the purpose of doing that was to restrict media coverage of the event. On his blog, which I'll give you the link, he says that the Corps of Engineers requested satellite images from NASA but were refused. And when submersibles, robotic subs, were sent down and images were collected, it showed that it's not just a ruptured wellhead, but more like the mouth of a submarine oil volcano. Okay, what I find is that lately the media is kind of playing it down. Okay, here's an example from the Gazette. BP taps into oil leak. Some crude captured, but huge plumes detected below water suggest flow greater than estimated. Okay, although that does sound alarming, but if you read the article, they're saying that they've managed to siphon off some of the oil. It sounds totally ridiculous, like they put a tube down there and they're channeling it into ships that are at the top. I mean, this isn't a spilled tanker. This is like a volcano under the ground. I've heard it could be like the equivalent of a Mount Everest of oil under the seabed. And they're gonna what? Put it into boats? So yeah, according to the Gazette, BP is capturing about 2,000 barrels a day. So they're giving you the impression that, well, we're working on it. It's gonna be under control. I don't think they're really letting you know just how bad this is. According to Press TV, scientists from the European Space Agency said that BP was not able to contain this gusher and that it's about to hit the coast of Florida in around 6 days. So this is the article from Press TV. It says ESA scientists revealed on Wednesday that the giant oil spill from a damaged well operated by BP has hit the loop current in the Gulf of Mexico. As the clockwise powerful ocean current finds its way northwards, scientists warn it will carry the oil spill off toward the U.S. state of Florida. But the concern is really greater than that, because once it gets into other ocean currents, it can just go just about anywhere. Like it could go on the up the eastern seaboard, it could go as far as Newfoundland. Already it's damaged very badly the fishing and shrimping and all those industries in the States. Now obviously it's going to affect tourism as well around where it's happened in the Gulf of Mexico, but this could, go right up to all the way up the east, and maybe even worse. And actually, some say that if it gets into the Gulf Stream, it can affect the Gulf Stream, which could actually affect the climate. Okay, speaking of climate, This all ties in with the same old globalist climate change, Copenhagen Agreement agenda. I'll just give you a little bit of background. The U.S. government had recently ended a moratorium on offshore drilling. Now, however, they've banned offshore drilling from coastal areas of the U.S. because of what happened. They're also putting a climate change bill through in the U.S. government. It's from Senators Kerry and Lieberman. And it's weird, the bill, a little bit, because it kind of originally seemed to sort of encourage offshore drilling, like states that were having it would revenue share for having that, but they also had the power to veto it, so they didn't have to do it if the state didn't want to do it. So on the surface, it kind of looked like they're supporting these large industries, the oil industry, offshore drilling. But now things are changing a little bit. Okay, from The Guardian UK, White House aims to use Deepwater disaster to win votes for U.S. climate bill. Well, sure. Oh, here's what they say. U.S. senators prepare to roll out legislation after oil spill, quote, tragedy heightens interest in energy and wanting a different plan. Time is fast running out for climate and energy legislation, with Democrats expected to suffer heavy losses in the midterm elections. Well, I'd say that's pretty good timing, no? I mean, it's just coincidence, right? But there's nothing like a good calamity to push a political agenda, especially when it comes to climate change.